Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is John. This is Don. We are excited for today's conversation. We're going to be talking a little bit about youth ministry and kind of everything our parents need to know right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be a wonderful talk. So, Don,
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about your life? Can you?
Absolutely. I
Sweet.
can tell you a little bit about my life. So, my name's Don. I'm married. Been married for 26, almost 27 years. I've got 4 kids. My oldest is 24. My youngest is 3. We cover the wide spectrum of...
No big deal.
No big deal at all. I've been saved most of my life, a lot of my life. I would say my real decision, my actual decision to be a Christ follower happened in high school. I was in 9th grade. I was, of course, dating someone who was going to a youth group, as I think a lot of us either met or have relationships.
Yeah, youth group is about finding a girl.
Right? That's what it's about, right? No, but so we were there one night, and the speaker was talking, and a lot of the stuff that he was saying was just like really tracking. Like you have one of those nights like where you feel like the message is just for you. Like it literally was like there's probably 150 kids in that room, but he was looking right at me the whole time. And it was this message of like, hey, I've been a mess up most of my life. I've done things that I shouldn't do. And you know, my middle school years were really kind of like my rebellious period, the time where I was getting in a lot of trouble. I was like sneaking out at night. I was skipping class. I was stealing. I was just being just a delinquent, you know? And he tells this story, and it goes along the lines of, well, you know, he was a delinquent. He was going down this path. He had spent a few nights in juvie on and off. I'd done similar things. And he said one night he was sitting in juvie and sitting in this detention room with another kid on an overnight thing. And he watched this kid like literally like end his life in front of him. And it was just this, and what struck so true with me was because there were such similarities between what the speaker was saying and what my life had been, I could see myself in either one of those roles as either as the person watching someone who had lost all hope or being that person who had lost all hope.
Right.
And of course, the story continues, right? He finds hope in Jesus. And I went, yes, that's what I need. Like, I need to stop, one, being a moron, but stop living for myself. Stop doing things that only make me, you know, try to make me feel good about what's going on. And then that was it. Like, Jesus had my heart. And so it's been an amazing experience from then until now. And
what was the rest of high school like as you kind of became?
So I went to a small Christian high school. Like, we had 13 people in our graduating class. I married one of them.
Yeah.
So we were kind of a tight-knit group. But it was, I mean, transitional would be the obvious word there. But that was a time where like I was consistent with learning more about God, like just going to Bible class or going to Sunday school or going to church. Like, it had more meaning. It had more value. Like, it was like, hey, I'm investing in my life now. What do I need to know to not have a perfect life? Like, that's not possible, but to have a life that is more filling, that has more hope, that has like bigger meaning than just trying to make it through the day.
For sure.
You know, I was still a goofball in high school. You know, I was a CZ.
I'm still a goofball.
Yeah, right.
To this day.
Like, yeah,
it has not gone away.
So, but you know, we now live for something more than just ourselves, just more than what today has to bring for us.
Yeah.
So,
for any of our people watching, you know, specifically for some of our you know, elementary school parents that might not know you, how did your call into ministry, into pastoral ministry, how'd that
Oh my
flow?
gosh. Yeah. Well, it was a perfectly straight line. You know,
it always is.
No, it wasn't. So actually, it was kind of funny as I was talking to Nick Thompson last night about this, and we found out that we actually went to the same church. And I probably was his leader at one point in time, like 20 years ago. Like, it's insane. But no, so I got married young, married at 20, first kid at 22. And so we had determined when we got married that church was going to be a priority in our lives, that we were always going to try to go to church. We're always going to take our kids to church. And so we went to a church down on Lake Underhill, and we were going there and we're making friends and doing that thing, just kind of doing church life. I got a call one random, like Monday night, from someone saying, "Hey, your name was given to me saying that you might be a good person to ask for children's ministry, like to do something in children's ministry." And I went, "No, it wasn't me. You're thinking about someone else." And I hung up the phone, talked to Jenny for a little bit, and we were like, "No, we're gonna give it a try." And so I showed up that next Wednesday for a little rehearsal, and the rest is history. From there, I was in children's ministry almost every week. It was, early 2000s, mid early 2000s, so like 2004, 2005. So this was really and that was a transitional period for children's ministry.
Yeah.
Like, churches were transitioning from a Sunday school model into a large group, small group model.
Yeah.
And we were using, it's now called Orange Curriculum, but it was Basics 252 at the time. And it was skit acting every week. And it was awesome. And it was so much fun. We had this great group of adults who just loved God and loved teaching kids. Cool. And that was really encouraging to me to see, like, church can be fun for kids.
Right.
And so I started there as just an actor, worked into being a small group leader, to being production manager, to like basically running the kids ministry. The church went through a transition of its own. We then, moved out of our brick and mortar building and became portable. And so we got to just that part of my ministry, which is almost all volunteer. Like, if I got paid, it was $50 a week kind of thing. Yeah. Like, it wasn't like I was in paid ministry. I always had my full-time job at the time. And it was just this great time. Like, it was a party, but it was like so much fun. And then a few years ago, about 2017, a friend of mine who's a a family pastor, asked me to help with their student ministry. And up to this time, I'd always done elementary. Yeah. And I was like, no. Like, teenagers scare me. Like, they're weird, they're strange, they smell funny. I don't want to be a part of it. But he's like, no, really, you'd be great. And so I did it part-time for a year. I told him I'd give him a year. And I did it, and I loved it, and I fell in love with student ministry.
Yeah.
It didn't work out at that church, but I came back to OBC and was like, I talked to our youth pastor at the time. I was like, man, I'll mop the floors. I will pick up chairs. I just want to be a part of student ministry.
Yeah.
And so I came in as a small group leader. A couple of years later, he transitioned out of state, and that's how I ended up here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's great. Left a good job.
Left a great. Oh yeah, that's kind of a key part of all of this, right?
Gotta fill it in for you.
So during that entire time, up until I started working here, I worked in corporate America. I spent almost 21 years at the job I was at, working my way up the corporate ladder. Decent pay, decent hours. You know how if you've been at a place long enough, there's familiarity, there's comfort. Yeah. Was it the best job in the world? No, but we knew what to expect. Everything was going great. We had a big, mother company, or whatever you want to call it, a home office, I guess, that supported us, and we always had the job was good.
Yeah.
But when Dustin had that breakfast with me a few years ago, it was really because I kind of figured paid full-time ministry was done at that point. That I missed my chance, right? But God has this weird way of saying, yeah, no, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And so I left my job of 21 years, almost 21 years, and now I get to, throw eggs at kids for a living. So it's great.
Yeah. So what in that age is so unique about kind of the spiritual development side of students from middle school to high school?
Let me just say, I love middle school.
Right.
When I look at a group of middle schoolers, all I see is potential.
Yeah.
All I'm man, if you just only knew, what you're capable of doing, it would be amazing. Now, it's also extremely frustrating sometimes, right? When they meow at you during your message, that's kind of weird, but whatever. It's all good. It's all a learning process. But for middle schoolers, teaching them is more about like building fundamentals. It's more about like teaching them like, okay, well, you're not in elementary anymore. We're not going to do hand motions with our songs, but the songs are still going to have a strong biblical meaning to them. Our praise and our worship, means not something more than it did before, but
there's a maturity.
It hits them differently. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's a good word to use. Like it is a maturation process with our middle schoolers. Like we know that they are learning. We know that they are young. We know that they are going through phases of their life that are sometimes difficult to go through. And so we want to be there to support them, to encourage them, to build them up. Our high schoolers, man, I've got such a like, I know I'm biased, but like I've got a great group of high schoolers. They show up. I love watching like someone who goes from 9th to 12th grade in ministry, because you'll have a kid who I would call a satellite kid, right? Like they're in the group, but they're like half a step behind, like literally sitting behind that group because they want to be a part of it. They don't know what to do. I've got countless stories of our kids that like, who are these satellite kids who are now like, hey, yeah, I'll lead us out in prayer. Yeah, hey, this is what I think, it means to share my faith. Awesome. These are the kids I invited this week to church with me. Like, it's like that itself, just a ministry, is so rewarding to see. Like, it's not like, oh man, my message hit and I feel great about that. It's like watching the generation grow and mature and respect and understand the power of God in their lives. Like, it's just
do you have any specific stories of transformation over this past year? I know there was a lot of stuff that happened at camp and
camp is always like, camp is like one of those like watershed moments in any of our kids' lives. Like I could ask you, you could ask me, you could ask anyone, Dustin, like, hey, tell me about a summer camp. And you could probably like tell you like every day what happened, what was explained in there. So camps are always like super awesome. We do this thing called Lift Tour, which is a student conference during the winter time in February, and that's always amazing. I would think more recently though, like I'm just kind of thinking back over this last school year. One of my favorite nights, I think, in ministry in a long time happened maybe 4 weeks ago. We did almost like a night of prayer. We were doing a Back to Basics series, so we were talking about like, what does it mean to share our faith? What does it mean to worship God? How do we read our Bible? And one night was like on how to pray. Like it's a simple, like, how do you pray? It's a simple question with like a lot of meaning, a lot of weight, right? And so we read through Matthew, and when the disciples asked Jesus like how to pray, and we went through the Acts model, the adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication. But I split everyone up into groups in the room, and like we all took, like I would say a part, and just scripture led prayer time, and just like sitting on the stage and listening to
that's cool.
Listening to the students pray for each other, like in a group, hearing our small group leaders pray over our students, and hearing kids who won't say a word actually lift up like a little prayer of praise, a little prayer of thanksgiving. Like it was just such a powerful time, and just such a like an encouraging time for me and for our leaders. Like I talked to our leaders afterwards, and they're like, this was great. Like this was awesome. Can we do this every week? And I'm like, yes, you can always pray with your guys, right? Like, but it was just such a great time, and I was super encouraged by that. And like parents, if your kids go to Alive, know that they are praying, they are learning about God, they are learning how to read their Bible, and it's just like I couldn't be more proud in the best way possible for our students right now.
So is there anything for the parents at home that you feel like they need to know of stuff you're doing currently, but also stuff that's coming up? Yeah,
sure. So we've got a few things that we do. This series that we're in, we're teaching Romans right now. We're actually going like pretty much chapter by chapter through Romans. We're not doing every verse. Like we don't have time to do that. But one of the cool things that we're doing is, so we'll teach on a section on Wednesday night. Like last night was Romans, the last part of Romans chapter 3, so 21 to 26. We didn't get to go through chapter 2. So what we do is on Sunday morning, Sunday a.m., during our 9 a.m. Bible study time, we go back through that. We'll talk a little bit about Wednesday night, see if there's any questions, get a little more depth and dig into it a little bit more, because they have small group time where they can kind of talk about that stuff. But on Sunday mornings, we can go back a little bit and say, okay, well, this is what we're going to go through. And it's a true like Bible study time. And that's like, if your students want to get the full experience, coming to both times is like super, super important.
Right. They're both supplementing each other. Kind of thing.
Yes. They are complementing what we talk about on Sunday goes with what we talk about on Wednesday, and what we talk about on Wednesday goes with what we're talking about on Sunday. So as far as like weekly stuff that's going on, that would probably be the biggest thing I'd want to communicate. We also have a couple bigger things coming up. Like I said, mentioned lift tours in February. I'm going to be sending out an email next week for all of our parents. I don't know when this is actually going to hit the interwebs, but
I got to get it done fast now.
No, the first week of October, parents, you should be getting an email from me. Just talking about what's coming up. Lift tour is going to be one of those things. That's in February, but we have to kind of register now. We have to start reserving rooms now. That's what's going on. And then there was one more thing. I forgot what it was, so I wrote it down here. Where did it go? Oh, one of the bigger things. So, I think I can officially announce this and say this, but Alive Students has an official worship leader now.
Nice.
Nick Thompson is going to be leading worship, which is something that we've desperately needed, like an adult leader, because I do have certain talents and abilities, worship, singing, music. That's
and if you
not
guys
me.
don't know who Nick is, he's the guitar player on Sunday morning, and he is a awesome leader, awesome guy.
Yeah, he's led some Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
He's led worship at other churches before. He's been a part of student ministry before. It's just such an easy fit. Like this is, not to put the cart in front of the horse, but this feels like a home run. This feels like an easy thing.
Right.
He loves God. He loves music. He loves mentoring students, and so it's just going to be I'm excited to see what happens in this next season of Alive Students when it comes to our worship time.
That's
so
good.
it's really going to be elevated. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's amazing. For the whole church in general, what ways can we be praying? Maybe not necessarily for Alive ministry, which that'd be great, but like specifically what's some stuff that students are dealing with right now? Yeah. That just as a church we need to be generally praying for.
Yeah, I mean the obvious answer is social media, but I kind of want to be a little more be a little more pointed than that. I would say just making sure that we keep as a family that you keep church as a priority. It is so easy right now to get pulled in a million different directions, and that's probably one of my biggest battles right now with our students is, hey, are you coming tonight? No, man, I got too much work to do. I got all this homework I got to do. Well, didn't you get assigned it earlier this week? Yeah, but Wednesday night's kind of like my study night now. And I'm like, well, let's prioritize this a little bit more. Or, hey, I got practice, or I've got this meet or travel or whatever. There is so much stuff. And I know, like, Wednesday night isn't, church, right? It is a corporate gathering of believers. It's not like a Sunday morning church where we're with our families and all that stuff. Like, this is designed specifically for our students, but it's still important. It still should be a priority. Like, I get it. I've done the travel sports. I know how difficult it can be to balance those schedules. But I would just encourage parents, and also if people could be praying for us, like just to maintain church as a priority for our students, because this is time we don't get back. Right. Alive Students and any student ministry, like we only get kids for 7 years total. Right. Like if they start at 6th grade and they go to 12th grade, that's it. Like then they're out, then we kick them out. We tell them they can't come back no matter how hard they try. Mike, I'm talking to you. No matter how hard they try, they can't come back and be a part of the ministry in the same way. Like they can come back and volunteer later on, but like that time has passed them by. And there's some great fundamental stuff that we go through, like I talked about, like our Back to the Basics program. Yeah. Like there's some essential stuff in there they need. They need to learn how to build those relationships now.
And being good at sports is cool. Right?
It's great.
Eternity is a big deal. I think prioritizing eternity, pretty dope.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? The other thing I'd say to maybe pray for is, so this year, our focus has really been like last year, and we continue to equip our students, right? Give them the tools they need to be successful spiritually and in their life and in their day-to-day relationships and interactions with people. But this year, we're really kind of focusing on like how to share our faith.
That's cool.
The first week, my message is on like, where's the urgency?
Yeah.
Like, are we looking for opportunities to share our story? Are we looking for opportunities to invite people? Are we looking for times when like we just need to stand up and we need to ask someone, hey, things aren't going, I can tell something's not right. Is it okay if I sit with you? Is it okay if I pray with you? Like, it doesn't have to be, a deep theological discussion
right.
over, everything. It could just be as simple as, hey, let me help you walk through this time right now. And let me tell you why, even though when things are going bad for me, I still have hope. I believe that, just there's a lot that they can do that's easy for them to do.
Right.
It's just finding that urgency to do it. So I would be praying for confidence and opportunity and clarity, just like when those opportunities arise. One of the things I tell my students all the time is like, I don't go to school with you guys. Like, I'm not standing next to you. I can't be like, hey, go talk to him, or hey, I'm going to go talk to him. Like, that's their responsibility to do. And it's an important part of our faith, is sharing our faith. So, I would say those are probably the big, like, priority and sharing the gospel.
Yeah, having some boldness.
Yeah.
Which is huge. I mean, and that's a prayer we can do for anybody. But I remember being in high school, and you have that added worry of, like, that acceptance that, like, everybody still has it, but in high school it's heightened. And so just boldness there is huge. So, guys, thanks for watching. Don, thanks for being on the podcast. I appreciate you a ton. I'm going to kick it to one of our videos of our missionaries. We're trying to do that at the end of the podcast, just kind of give you an overview of what our missionaries are doing. So, guys, hit the like button, subscribe if you have not. We'll see you on the next one.
Hi, my name is Paul Clark from Bogota, Colombia. The church there in Orlando has asked me to share something about the ministry here in Colombia. As some of you know, we've been here a long time, for over 40 years now as missionaries. But when we arrived to Colombia 40 years ago, we started the first church here in Bogota and worked that church for 10 years before turning it over to Colombian leadership. And through their leadership, the church reproduced herself time and time again all throughout the country, to the extent that today there's over 50 churches planted all throughout Colombia, all being led by Colombian leadership. These are men that have been trained in our leadership schools that we have formed all throughout the country, and they're churches that are self-financed. Each local church is financed through the offerings of the believers of that given congregation. So that is what God has done throughout the years. But in fact, in the last few years, He's taken our ministry to other countries of the world, Colombian families leaving here from different churches to different countries like Peru, like Venezuela, Panama, Mexico, Spain, Africa. That is what has happened in the last few years. Now, you may ask, well, Paul, what is your role today if it's all led by Colombian leadership? Well, basically my role is to be available for any given church or the leadership of any given church at any time. And so I travel constantly from church to church, doing whatever needs to be done. And sometimes that involves just going to the church to encourage them. Sometimes it's to go to spend time with the leadership or to train leadership. Sometimes they ask me to come and preach on a Sunday. There's many different purposes of my trips, but basically it's kind of a watch care type ministry that I have to help take care of the different churches, especially the younger ones that are being formed. Now, your role, your part in all of this has been vital, because you've been faithful in praying for us all throughout these years. I think your church was one of the first churches to support us. So you've been with us almost 40 years now, praying for us, giving to us those monthly offerings so that we can do the ministry here. And I don't believe there's been 1 month throughout all the years that you've missed in supporting us financially. That is absolutely incredible. But we do want to thank you for your part. Of course, you do understand that the fruit that has been born in this country abounds to your account when you stand before the Lord. This fruit, the thousands of Colombian believers, those that have been saved today, or throughout the years, I should say, that's fruit that abounds to your account. And of course, it's for His glory. He is the one that has done it in and through our lives, your lives and ours, working together as a team to see this mission accomplished. But we do want to thank you for your faithfulness, your love towards us all throughout the years. We do not take that for granted. We ask for you to continue to pray for us on a daily basis. We love and appreciate you. Goodbye.